Look behind any television, monitor, or console today, and you will find a single HDMI cable handling all the heavy lifting for your high-definition video and audio. We treat it as a standard, universal utility. But go back to the early 2000s, and plugging in a device meant wrestling with RCA connectors, that tangled nest of red, white, and yellow pins. Even when properly connected, the analog signal they carried was noisy and low resolution. As the first generation of large, flat-screen displays started taking over living rooms, the flaws of those old analog cables became impossible to ignore. Consumers desperately needed a cleaner, sharper way to connect their devices. Consumers saw HDMI as a quality upgrade, but for the companies that built it, the cable was a survival tactic born from corporate panic. The crisis started in the aisles of electronics stores. The explosive adoption of consumer DVD players meant millions of households suddenly had access to high-quality digital movies. For the major Hollywood studios, this was terrifying. Unlike VHS tapes, which degraded slightly every time you duplicated them, a digital file is flawless. A copy of a DVD is an exact, mathematically perfect replica of the original studio master. Someone could buy a single disc, rip the digital file, and immediately burn thousands of perfect bootlegs to sell on the street. A massive decentralized piracy market sprang up overnight. Watching their revenue bleed out, executives at studios like Warner Bros. And Disney went into full lockdown mode. They began heavily pressuring tech manufacturers to invent a hardware-level kill switch for piracy. The hardware makers faced a very serious problem. If they told consumers a new cable was explicitly designed to restrict what they could do with their own movies, no one would buy it. The solution required immense secrecy. In December 2002, a covert alliance formed behind closed doors to figure out how to lock down the living room without the public noticing. This coalition included some of the biggest names in electronics: Sony, Panasonic, Philips, and Toshiba. They pooled their resources with a singular, shared objective. The alliance moved away from building standard, passive wires. Instead, they designed a gated pipeline, where the television and the media player must perform an automated verification handshake before any signal is released. By controlling the physical pathway that the video traveled across, the alliance could dictate exactly how digital media was consumed and recorded in private homes. By hardwiring these checks into the hardware itself, the alliance ensured that Hollywood's licensing rules became a physical reality in every living room. To make this work, the alliance brought in Intel. Their job was to write the cryptographic code that would lock down the signal between the devices. Intel developed a protocol called HDCP, or High Bandwidth Digital Content Protection. They baked this heavy encryption directly into the HDMI standard itself. If you try to tap an HDMI line with an unauthorized recording device, the HDCP protocol actively detects the intrusion. It forcefully severs the video feed, leaving you with a blank screen. It works invisibly, completely blocking the signal path. The alliance marketed this strict digital rights management tool entirely through its promise of high-definition picture quality. Pristine HD video was the bait. It convinced millions of consumers to voluntarily install an invisible security guard straight into their own home theaters. Looking at a modern set-top box, you can see how completely the plan worked. If you want to watch licensed high-definition content from major studios today, you have to use an HDMI connection. We tend to group HDMI alongside things like USB-C or the standard 3.5mm headphone jack. However, unlike those open, free-to-use standards, HDMI is a strictly controlled, proprietary piece of technology. To include an HDMI port on a laptop, a television, or even a massive gaming console like the PlayStation 5, the manufacturer must pay a direct licensing fee to the HDMI Alliance. Because the protocol is legally required to play licensed content, hardware makers have no choice but to pay up. This model generates continuous revenue from almost every screen manufactured globally. Ultimately, HDMI operates as an invisible toll booth. It quietly extracts a tax from the companies building the hardware while actively policing the people buying it. The HDMI cable represents a total corporate compromise. It satisfies the consumer's need for a single, convenient wire while delivering the security Hollywood demanded. It simultaneously fulfills the public's desire for quality and the industry's demand for control over their digital property. That cord plugged into your TV transmits high-definition video, but it simultaneously functions as a physical enforcer of digital law.